The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here he is, Brandon.
All right, welcome back to the Brandon Peters Show. Today, we will be discussing Satan's Big Year, this 80s satanic panic vibing films of 2024. Of course, that means joining me from the Saturday Evening Post, it is Troy Brownfield.
Greetings, Brandon.
Hello, hello. Very excited to get back into this Satan mode, but Troy, start up. Happy holidays this month, I guess.
Yes.
Going on and everything. What anything going on with you lately?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Loaded question.
But I have just finished up writing Marvel Comics for Dummies. The Dummies brand by Wiley Publishing has hundreds and hundreds of titles on stuff, and they made a big publishing plan with Marvel where they've got a bunch of books coming out that are specific to characters and whatnot. But I wrote one of the first two, which is a general overview of the history and characters of the Marvel Universe. And so that'll come out in February alongside Captain America for Dummies by Stuart Moore, who comic fans would probably know from his editorial work at the likes of DC and Marvel historically. So lots of cool people involved in the project and lots of cool books to come. Avengers and FF are in June and others in November of next year. So it's a pretty comprehensive publishing plan they've got to do these books. And, I had the good fortune to be asked to participate. So that's a big thing. And then Saturday Evening Post stuff proceeds as normal. I'm not sure when it's going to run, but I've been working on a piece about the 70s movies that inspired TV shows. And I was keying off of Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore anniversary, that becoming Alice, and other shows like Logan's Run and whatnot that got adapted into short-lived 70s shows. In Alice's case, it ran 10 years, but some of them, ran a season.
Alice
and
Didn't
of course,
Live Here.
like Moonshiners or Runners became Dukes of Hazzard.
Mm-hmm. Well, Alice Didn't Live Here Anymore. Still not on Blu-ray.
Really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also one of the few Scorsese movies that does not have Gimme Shelter on the soundtrack.
Right, yeah. What year was Breaking Away? Was that early
79.
80s? 79, yeah.
77?
Might have been that.
Yeah, it's late 70s. I just can't.
Because that got a TV show with Jackie Earle Haley returning for it.
Excuse me. Yeah, it did.
79 was Breaking Away.
79.
And the TV show was 1980, starring Sean Cassidy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was a busy man at that period.
Yeah. There's a whole world of, did you know, shows that came from movies. This isn't a new thing that people think is, constantly getting mined. But, Working Girl had a short-lived television show. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Uncle Buck. There's a ton of stuff that
Working Girl was a Sandra Bullock, was it not?
Sandra Bullock was in Working. She wasn't the star. She was the friend. And then A League of Their Own had a show before the Amazon show. There was a 6 or 7 episode show on CBS that did not last. But not all of them can do the reverse, like Naked Gun and Police Squad.
Right. There's a lot more of those. We're going to make a movie or a TV show into a movie that have failed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, some of the stuff that succeeds, like Wayne's World.
Yeah.
Or the Blues Brothers.
Which, funny enough, Troy, as we record this the weekend before, I set foot in Aurora, Illinois.
No kidding.
For the first time ever. It was party time. Excellent. And Cable Channel 5, I was informed, did exist.
Nice.
Public access Channel 5, yes. But I was like, Aurora, Illinois. All right. No palm trees there though.
I gotta say, my dark horse favorite line from the movie was when Meatloaf is giving the rundown of the band's playing, and he's like, "And the shitty Beatles, he's like, are they any good? No, they suck." So it's not just a clever name.
Yeah.
I love that exchange.
Yeah. No, that's so yeah, when they're yeah, that is so good. I no, that's one of my favorite comedies. Um and yeah, I loved all the pop culture stuff that went with it and
Yeah,
just everything. Oh, so fun. And I liked Wayne's World 2 as well. Sorry.
yeah. No, I
Uh,
like the second one. Which is funny because they just had the was it Vanity Fair with the epic amount of SNL folk gathered for the 50th anniversary
mhm.
tribute. And in Mike Myers' interview part, he kind of derides Wayne's World 2. Like, I don't know why we did that. And I'm like, well, money is why
Yeah.
you. But, it's an entertaining movie. It's not as bad as he would have you believe, I guess.
No. It has one of my favorite parts where the guy it's like cross our T's and dot our
Lowercase j.
lowercase J's.
And this for the guy that made The Love Guru, you know?
Yes. Now that
Dude,
is his woo. I had people literally calling sick to work to not have to watch that when we worked on that when I was doing QC.
that's
And we're like getting mad about it. And I saw it twice and it is torture. I'm not typically mean to a lot of movies, but that thing is just a heap of whew.
yeah.
So next week on the show, we'll be talking The Love Guru, revisited. No. Um, yeah, that was oof, not a good one, not a good one. But good to have you back here, Troy.
Thank you.
You brought this idea, pointed this out to me, brought this collective to me. So I'm going to start with you and just kind of explain what we're here discussing today.
Yeah, it was interesting because we have had a pretty good horror year overall.
Hmm.
But specifically within the horror year, there has been a strong current of stuff that, if not is directly related to the Satanic Panic, which I'd say two of these movies are very directly related to it, but stuff that vibes with the whole overture of the Satanic Panic, the stuff that got people worked up, particularly religious horror. So we have three religious horror films and two that are more cultural horror, Satanic Panic kind of stuff. And it was interesting to me because I'm always looking at these threads because of the kind of things that we talk about. And, I'm a big fan of the late, great David Skal, who always really looked hard at the sociological stuff, like what influences horror for this decade or this year or whatnot. And it was interesting to me that we have had a really pretty wide range of what constitutes horror, from I Saw the TV Glow to in a Violent Nature and all these different kinds of things. But this kind of thing, Late Night with the Devil, Immaculate, First Omen, MaxXxine, Heretic, has this very strong current of the stuff that, plucked the cord of the Satanic Panic. And Late Night with the Devil specifically being made about a talk show reflecting that. And then MaxXxine being set in that LA, reflecting the Richard Ramirez Night Stalker time, which was a big component
Hmm.
of it as well. It was just really interesting to me, and I'm like, we should look at all these movies together and see kind of what are they saying, and especially to the First Omen and Immaculate reflect a lot of similar ideas, both with
Yeah,
the nun thing and whatnot.
they're very
But
similar.
then and then Heretic with the missionary, with the two young ladies being leads that are Mormon missionaries, kind of ties in with that as well in a few ways. So it's
I wanted to put I know it takes place in the 90s, but Long Legs kind of fits
yeah.
in with this little vibe as well.
Yeah, the only reason I didn't think about long legs necessarily is because it's kind of so unique a beast
Yeah.
among the other stuff that I feel like there's like way more of a long legs discussion to be had, maybe in the context of some other things.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
But
I definitely think it's there. So, which one do you want to
but
go off with first?
long legs.
Oh,
I was thinking Late Night with the Devil since it was kind of chronologically first. It did have its South by Southwest premiere
hmm
in I think it was March of 2023, but then it didn't come into theaters until March of 2024. So there was like a long process for it to.
Yes, one definitely has a lot of like there's like Michelle remembers stuff in here
Yeah,
from what I can from what I gathered. And definitely reminded me like I feel like I like this movie quite a bit, but I know I noticed a lot of people going crazy for it, and I'm like, is it because I've seen like WNUF Halloween special that I was already like introduced to something similar to this thing they're going for with Late Night with the Devil?
I
Um,
think. Oh, yeah, I was gonna say I think that might be the case. Because you're just really familiar
mhm.
with it. I mean, that might have been the thing that plucked it the wrong way, I guess, for lack of better word.
Right. Or I just wasn't like as like woo about it, like, or maybe because you and I discussed this stuff and have covered things like it. But
Yeah,
this would be like a I don't want to say like Geraldo stunt. This is more like a Donahue would bring somebody like this on.
yeah, yeah. And if you haven't seen the film, the short form of it is, the host is going to bring on a young girl who is a legend. I mean, there's your setup. But the one of the things that really is interesting about it, and you got to clarify, the Satanic Panic has its roots kind of in the late 60s, early 70s, but like we consider it culturally as like kind of an 80s thing.
Hmm.
The talk show set in 1977, and it works very hard to capture the aesthetics of a 1977 talk show, the color palette, obviously the costuming and everything, but not just that, just the way that the guests are set up, it's got a
Yeah.
real Cavett
Yeah.
kind of stage setting. Um, it works real hard to do that. And the 70s corner of it was more like there's kind of a nationwide freak out going with the whole "Is God Dead" was on the cover of Time magazine, and then you had Rosemary's Baby was in the late 60s, and then you know The Exorcist in 73. So there's a lot of this stuff that was culturally, is Hotel California satanic 1976, so,
Yep.
this stuff was all roiling through. So 77 is a pretty good, time to hit like a fake documentary style
Yeah.
thing about it. But in
Well, this is
terms of,
going for like Carson era. Like there was another guy out there um when they're going for it, and he was losing in the ratings and desperately needed it.
yeah, I like the fact that the film opens with kind of a like to this point where it's filling you in on this little bit of backstory you need to put you into, now we're going to watch the broadcast of the show
Hmm.
and behind the scenes footage as it happens, and which is the WNUF connection, as you mentioned. but
Yeah.
but there's so much that ticks the boxes of things that actually happen, because you would have like the Amazing Randy, and people would come on Carson to debunk spiritualists,
Right.
and you have your skeptic character here who comes on to debunk this and point out this is all fake. But the other characters that are the believers, I mean, this is all very familiar if you watched these actual talk shows and saw this stuff happen. And it ignited a lot of cultural debate, which Brandon and I covered in a couple of previous episodes where we looked at the Satan's Underground, the Geraldo special. They got into a lot of those talk show vignettes of the past where people were on Donahue, as Brandon mentioned, and whatnot. And this was like the fuel for it. But I think what makes the movie effective as a watch is that they do a pretty good job of cultivating the suspense with it throughout. It's not just the idea.
Hmm.
You get the idea that some crazy shit is going to happen.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're sitting waiting for it to like crack. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a
But there's good drama set up character study wise.
Yeah.
with the host to let it's not just like, oh, this paranormal stuff, but like he disappeared for a while. Where was he? What's going on? How is he reacting? How is he behaving? He's going through grief and all that stuff. So there's personal stakes beyond the paranormal that help uh, tow this thing along as it goes.
Yeah, he's you know, mourning his wife, and there's suggestions of a cult, and they bring up Abraxas as the demon associated with the cult, which that's
Strong as I am.
right.
Sorry, for my listeners, I was referring to the Jesse Ventura, Sven Thorson film, Abraxas.
Abraxas
Yeah,
protected the universe, which
I
which
will
is
protect the universe. I oh.
which is funny because it's like it's this old Gnostic word that's in a lot of these old writings that people have reappropriated for, like Crowley writes about Abraxas, and there's all
Mhm.
these other things that are, it pops up in other places. And so, it's like, oh, it's a book, oh, it's a word, oh, it's a demon, whatever. And I think it was kind of interesting that they um introduced that as like the demon of the cult, and that there's like this mass suicide with the sole survivor that's the girl that's going to be, the person. And one of the things that's really interesting about the movie, I think, is they pull off some pretty great in-camera effects with
Mhm.
the girl, and her acting is really good.
Yeah.
Her representation of that. But again, like Brandon said, she's doing a good job of capturing somewhere between Linda Blair and like the 2020 late 80s exorcism episode.
Yeah.
The mannerisms of the possession and everything. It's really well done because it does look authentically like the stuff that we saw presented in these formats.
Yeah, there's an authenticity not just to like the aesthetic of the film, but to the performances as well with Dame Dash Malin, and like the girl. Don't have her name in front of me.
Lily is the girl, but I
Well,
can't.
yeah. And the audience and everything, they get it pretty much right. Is what happens. And then when it's not on air, you see it. It's black and white, correct?
I think
Behind the
the
scenes and stuff like
movement,
that
yeah,
plays more like a traditional movie and stuff. But like when the cameras are back on, it's like you're watching the television show again, and it's got that nice little 70s live television look, like a talk show or a Smothers Brothers episode or something
yeah.
like that.
And of course, the whole thing builds up to kind of a fever pitch with, like, the host's ghostly wife,
Hmm.
then the girl starting to lose it, and things starting to happen in the and oh, here happens to be the dagger from the ritual. And
Right, yeah.
yeah, leading to a kind of explosive, kind of bloody climax of the thing, which you always knew it was going to go badly,
Yeah. Yes.
but which is kind of like the thing that elevates it above like a pastiche or a docudrama kind of thing is the last part, because that's when you go into the horror movie thing full on. The ending
Hmm.
makes the horror movie. Otherwise, it could have just been like a little clever. It could have been
True.
WNUF,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
just without as much humor.
Right. Um there this one this and this movie was called out for some heresy, sorcery, but the use of AI artwork, which I think was
The bumps.
I understand the discussion can come up and be had, but this was the wrong movie to start yelling at about because it was made before this was even a discussion topic point,
Yeah.
and it was made for literally like two slides used
Yeah.
in the movie, made by the art director. So someone was getting paid
Yeah.
and trying to come up with something, and it's literally two slides, and then like, of course, Twitter went crazy about it. Um,
Yeah.
but
And as someone who's a very strong anti-AI artwork
mhm.
proponent, um, the two "We'll be right back" slides are
Yeah.
not the equivalent of, say, the terrible opening sequence of Secret Invasion,
Yeah.
which is, and the AI thing is less about the tool and more about the theft of intellectual property,
Right.
because, that AI doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's the same with Chat GPT and everything. It's a scraper.
Yep. It only
And
knows what has happened before. It can never go forward. Everything you can create with that will be boringly predictable and
yeah.
done before.
So if you're using a rendering agent that you put your own artwork into, it's a very different thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's like a Photoshop or whatever. But when you're saying, "Find me dragons," and it comes back and gives you Larry Elmore's dragon, and you slap your
Yeah.
name on it, that's not AI. That's theft.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I have no argument with it as like a tool, but I know how our society is. We never use them as just tools. Like it never like CG was as a tool and everything, but as the means to an end. Ah. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, if you're using it AI to like polish something that you have done yourself, I don't see anything wrong with that. But
Right.
um
No, it's the other side of it that's out of control. Like particularly Chat GPT in colleges is becoming a massive problem
oh
for
yeah, I
papers
imagine.
and whatnot. And
Oh,
you know,
we had an issue. I mean, Ari with artwork with the PopCon Podcast Awards. We gave out the best artwork, and the guy in his acceptance speech said, "Well, I used AI to make this," and it was like, ah, just and
oh
you could hear everybody just roar in the audience, and I got a lot of angry emails.
wow.
I didn't
Oh, I'm sorry.
know. I couldn't.
Yeah. How can some of them you cannot tell?
And then like yeah, like what? And someone and if I inquired, someone could lie. But
Yeah,
I mean, I can't believe this person would say that in a speech, but they did. And yeah, so we all make mistakes.
man. Yeah. So they didn't deserve the drubbing they got for that,
Hmm.
because, it's a tight, intense, entertaining little film. And
Hmm.
I don't think enough people saw it. I think that
Oh, I mean, in the circles, people saw it, but like, yeah, as a general thing, it had a nice little run. I know the screener season, like 80. I mean, pretty easy to watch. Awards season time because holy crap, that's been sent 80 different directions. Um, yeah, I mean it's an independent film and it was meant to hit quickly. It's one of those. I think it was meant to go quickly to theater and to Shutter. It made 10 million bucks and 15
Yeah.
worldwide for a movie like this. That's great. It's IFC Films. I mean,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Their whole idea is to, like this. This was their quarter one movie, and then quarter two was in a violent nature, and that
Yeah.
made some money. So they were making some. IFC Films was making some good money this year, but for that, that's huge. Late because it probably cost $5.
I saw the TV Glow IFC as well, or am I
No, that is A24.
Oh, it was A24. That's right.
A24. Yep. So what I think it was A24 or something. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it's
I
on
think
Max. Yeah, yep.
I
It's
think you're
A24.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The boys and I kind of have a joke now about because you've got all the kind of the boutique studios doing the horror stuff and whatnot. And
Hmm.
um anything that looks like it's starting out like a normal movie with like a family moving in somewhere, it's
Hmm.
like, "Hey, we're gonna love our new house." Blumhouse.
Yeah.
"Don't you like our new pool?" Blumhouse. And
Look at Thing. Blumhouse.
Blumhouse.
I got this new technology for our house. Blumhouse.
You want a robot doll, kid? Blumhouse. Yeah, but yeah, but so it is, I think, a little bit easy to get confused on some of the smaller ones at this point, but
Hey, they're the ones doing the work. Put it in.
that's right.
I believe the second release was Immaculate. That was the
Yeah.
the second one that came out this year.
Before you arrived, did you have Congress with a man?
No, no. Why are you asking me
We
this?
just want to know the truth.
What is going on?
You are with child. It's a miracle.
So yeah, Immaculate. Um, well, obviously, when they put Immaculate out, the draw for Immaculate was Sydney Sweeney, who, as I really appreciate that she is somebody who has a complete understanding of the root of her appeal.
Yeah.
And Bowen Yang spoke about her appearance on Saturday Night Live, that like how she was just like up for everything, and like the Hooters sketch was something that she pitched, and
Yeah.
because she has, according to the SNL cast people who talked about it, a complete understanding of the way that people look at her.
Yeah.
And she's like, fine, I'll make money with it.
Yeah.
And you know, I imagine that there was a certain segment of the population who thought that they were getting something very different with Sydney Sweeney Nun movie than what they got,
Yeah.
which is awesome because, it could have very easily been very exploitive, and instead it's like a pretty rough religious critique in
Hmm.
some ways, with an ending that I was kind of delighted by because it doesn't pull a punch on
Right.
that ending. So,
No, she goes hard in that ending. I think, she's a solid. I mean, this movie gets made because she's in it.
yeah,
I think I could see many other actresses and like stepping in this role and this elevating being a little bit better based on that. But I appreciate. I am a person who's appreciating what Sydney Sweeney goes for and does. Like she's a hands-on producer.
yeah,
She wants like star-driven things back.
yeah,
And this is part of it. Um, this one in particular was quite intriguing to me as I watched it and stuff, and it does. I mean, it goes hard in that ending, like
yeah,
you probably wouldn't have expected this movie to do. Um, and yeah, like with our Satan, this is the first of our wild pregnancies
yeah.
um, that happened with the movies this year.
Yeah, you gotta say Rosemary's Baby is the mother of horror pregnancy movies. I mean, and that can roll through a lot of movies. Manitou,
Oh yeah, man. Yes.
Alien can vibe that way.
Uh-huh.
You know, the there's all this kind of like pregnancy of as horror subject. Basket Case. You could really put a pretty solid program of pregnancy as horror.
Yeah.
The Brood, Cronenberg,
Yep.
but the religious aspect of this makes it interesting because it like has this layer that you can't escape of the right to life people, the way the Catholic Church treasure, you know, the fetus, but the way that they are basically doing genetic engineering
Right.
in the film kind of
Yeah,
gives
this
it,
is it's yeah, mad scientist religious film.
yeah. And it's a twist that they really don't introduce for a long time. So that when it
No.
comes in, it's kind of like, whoa, it's a
And
interesting.
I like they have the holy relic like a relic thing with the nail of Christ or whatever
Uh-huh.
that's in there. That's a pretty cool little detail. But yeah, when it goes into like the third act, you're just like, "What the?"
Yeah. That's when I got the most excited in the movie when it's like, okay, you've been watching this, now we're gonna do the crazy shit. And like, we're connecting the DNA of Jesus to try to engineer a new
Right, yes.
Messiah from the because we've got the spike from the crucifixion, and that's what they're trying to do, but the babies are all going horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And I also admire the restraint from the filmmakers. They've got the ones like in the jars basically, but you don't actually see what she gives birth to.
Right.
But it's monstrous because it has to be.
Uh-huh. Well, it's a Rosemary's Baby where you just don't see
Yeah.
it, but you're like, "What is it, what
Yeah.
could only a mother love or smash in
Yeah.
this
Because
situation?"
as she does, she grabs a rock and that's the end. There's no, she's still kind of in mid escape
Right?
there, and she's just given birth, and that's gonna be, you know,
She's got a long way to go.
yeah,
Yeah.
and can trust nobody because they did do the tease of her apparently getting away, but not earlier in the film, but
Yeah.
um, she's, but there's a lot of great symbolism, like when she beats Mother to Superior to death, the crucifix and whatnot.
Mm,
There's a lot of meta commentary going on about the way that the church treats women.
right.
And the way that it ties into like the satanic panic theme, obviously, corrupt birth, whatever. But the whole idea of questioning the authority was deemed satanic.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, that the pushback. So there's a lot of questioning authority woven into the film. And like, this is wrong. This is, we're being used as, the nuns are being used as brood mares basically to make a new savior that just isn't working.
Yeah, like, no, the 100%. Like, this is, yeah, it has this such a goofy ass weird turn to it that it's never been done in a religious horror film and it's not where you expect any religious horror film to go. There's
Yeah.
always it's the I was impregnated by Satan. The end. Or,
Yeah.
with that. Not like I'm trying to scrape the DNA from this holy nail and make a new like
Yeah.
just yeah.
Well, and another thing that's hard to do, and I think a lot of movies are kind of like trying to be clever in good ways to deal with it.
Hmm.
When you get into monsters and possession, vampires, demonic possession and stuff, historically the genre has leaned so heavily on the Catholic faith that a lot of people have tried to figure out, like, okay, how can we do this and not say Catholicism is absolutely right?
Yeah.
Because I can tell you one thing, the crowdsourced non-denominational exorcism in Exorcist, we shouldn't have done another sequel, was not it.
Yeah.
Uh, Believer, that whole fake ass exorcism was kind of terrible, and I thought it was kind of funny to me as someone who is certainly not Catholic. I'm like, am I offended that they didn't do a Catholic exorcism? Because that's kind of hilarious.
Yeah. Well, it was it was almost it was a like did Twitter write this exorcism? Like
Yeah,
trying to be as you need to just accept who this is or what it was trying to be so over hero and like trying to get let's make sure all the religions are we can
yeah,
get in there or there and all that. It's like these movies are based in like Catholic guilt and Catholic, like
yeah.
maybe you throw one added religion in there or something, but like,
Which is what The Exorcist 2 did
yeah,
with James Earl Jones' character and everything,
very true, very true. Yeah, yeah, oh, believer. Mm.
But yeah, Immaculate, it's a nicely coiled little thriller that kind of bites you at the end. And if
Yeah,
you're not expecting, you know, like you said, it's the inverse Rosemary's Baby, because Rosemary's like, "Oh, I'm going to accept the baby."
yes,
And, Sydney Sweetie's like, "I'm gonna smash it with a rock."
yeah, absolutely. Um, it is it's yeah, that's the unexpected. I think people were like that was what the buzz for the movie was that you gotta watch it to the end.
Yeah.
You gotta see that ending, and that's where I think yeah the people really like latched onto it because I don't know like up to that like it's an okay movie up to that for me, but yeah the third act really gets into Silly Town and I'm all for it
Yeah.
with this
And
stuff.
I'm honestly surprised there wasn't more controversy than there was.
I just
Uh,
not enough people saw it. That's probably
yeah.
if you got it like so this one did just as much domestically as Late Night with the Devil. It's a Neon put this one out. This is they're another little A24 that's like A24's competitor right there. Is Neon and it made 15 million domestic and then took in another almost 10 worldwide for 25 total. But yeah, if more people would have seen it, if this would have been a high profile big release with a lot more marketing than it did, you would have seen people maybe getting a
Losing
little
it.
uptight. Um, possibly same with our all of these films actually.
Yeah.
Had they done a little more, somebody would have got
Yeah.
pissy about them. Um,
Well, it's interesting that like what makes people mad now, you can't quite figure out because if I
yeah,
met
Lady the Devil, what'd they get mad at?
the
The
AI,
AI.
and but there is, and I'm gonna say it, such a right-wing outrage factory in media
Mhm.
stuff that I'm really kind of stunned that nobody grabbed that and ran with it
Yeah.
election year.
Alexia and like all these
Hollywood
films that we
smashed
have lined up. But the thing is with the right wing, they don't know what's cool. So they haven't watched, and you can tell by you see the box office and stuff, like these aren't making it, they're not making a dent. They're doing solid business for their studios because these
Yeah,
movies don't cost. Well, we'll get to the next one. When we get to the next one, that's the one that can't run away saying that. But like, they aren't making a big dent, so they aren't caught. They are. You'll only spotlight it and make it more money if you
yeah.
start crying about it. But yeah, there's not enough because it'll come and go, so it won't be the talking point. Now, if they could have found something in Long Legs, because that one did extremely well,
Yeah.
maybe. That was another one from Neon. That was their biggest Neon movie of all time.
And I think that it's incumbent upon us. Brandon and I talked about this off screen before we started, but one of the reasons that we didn't get into long legs with these other fives, although it's very easily tied in, hail Satan. It's just there's so much in long legs that it
Yeah,
deserves way more of its own discussion about.
absolutely.
You could get into the cage performance for a solid hour and
Yeah,
still not. uh,
Alicia Witt, still my favorite supporting actress turn this year with that movie. Just
she's fantastic in it. It's a very, very well done. Um, so yeah, so I guess the twin of Immaculate in terms of this year's nun movies is the First Omen.
the first Omen. Yeah.
Listen to me, Margaret. There are two churches. One follows God, and the other follows something else.
The First Omen is deliciously disturbing
I need proof.
Of what?
and an unchained cinematic beast.
Girl is to be the mother.
I'm gonna keep you safe.
It's the most terrifying movie of the year.
You've even given it a name. Damien.
The First Omen, rated R, only in theaters April 5th.
Which I was actually against on principle. I'm like,
Right.
they don't need a prequel to The Omen. The Omen is great. Like, I'm old.
Yeah.
I saw the First Omen, and I
It's
really
not
liked
like
it.
it's not like they didn't remake The Omen. They made a TV movie that sucked. The third
Right.
one's kind of not great. But yeah, when you go to do the first Omen, shame on no.
Nah, so I liked it.
No, this was the one of the biggest surprises of the year. Is how good this thing was.
Yeah, I remember Kyle and I, my son Kyle and I, walking out. And I'm like, that had no right to be that fucking good.
I want an apology.
I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed it and how much it worked and how much at the end I was kind of like, well, shit, they've already made the sequel. It's The Omen.
Yeah.
It's like they really did like meet that they did dovetail that excellently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and good on them. Good on them because they treated the first movie with a lot of reverence
Yeah.
in the way that they made this. They made it work in a way that so many other, let's just say Amityville sequels and prequels and stuff just suck.
Mm-hmm.
But this was like a well thought out,
Yeah.
well executed film, well acted, that had suspense and turns in it, even though you knew ultimately it had to get to point B
Mm-hmm.
because it's a prequel. But they really delivered.
No, they did. And there was nice little touches if you knew the Omen that were like, oh, that's neat. That's neat. But they weren't distracting and they
Yeah.
weren't like living by it. It just like
Yeah.
pops up in a moment. It's like, okay, that's a nice little handshake. This one also has a birthing scene with the hand that came out. I was like, oh,
Which was the thing that
oh,
most people heard about this movie.
yeah, yeah.
Demon Hand, from an uncomfortable place.
I tried to do a double of this and Monkey Man the weekends when they came out, and I had a little window between that I thought would do, and I went to go to the bathroom, and I went over to the theater, and I didn't buy my ticket yet. I went to check, and it already like started, and it was like literally the time it was supposed to start. I'm like, there were no trailers run before this,
Oh wow.
and so I didn't go see. I ended up getting a review copy, so that's how I saw it. But I was like, oh damn, I should have. And where I saw, I was like, oh, I missed like 2 lines. I should
Yeah.
I should have just went, but no, it's and it's actually really well made too. This one has some nice visual flair to it. Really good put together sequences, and yeah, this is very worthy up there with the original Omen, as well as I'm a big Omen 2 fan myself. Omen 3, yeah, well,
I,
trilogy capper.
I kind of like the final conflict. I mean, I
Hmm.
don't love it, but I kind
Yeah,
of
like it, don't love it. Yeah,
I appreciate it. Sam Neill is good in it. And they don't pull punches on the whole, we're gonna wipe out all these children that were born
right.
at a certain time because we're pretty sure one of them's the new Messiah, so we got to kill them all like that. They don't pull punches on that in that film. Where
True.
now that would, you know, you'd be
Yeah.
the end of Immaculate. But they have some crazy sequences in Final Conflict that made me kind of appreciate it.
Gotcha.
But in this one though, aside from like you said, the kind of tremendous visual with the hand and a lot of the suspense in this works really well, even though you fundamentally know what's gonna happen,
That's a sign of a good prequel.
and the idea of the baby being born because you know where the baby's gonna go. You know the baby's gonna go to the Thorne family.
Hmm.
That's none of this is a surprise. Ultimately, it's got to get to that
Yep.
point. You um, just like it's kind of hilarious when you think about it. The Star Wars prequels end with the baby's got to go somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Same with the First Omen, but it is
What if that switch births in those movies? Yeah.
yeah. And but even the scene of the other priest, telling Margaret at the end, his name is Damien. It's
Hmm.
still, it's not wonk wonk. It's like bong, like
Oh,
yeah, it's like
Fortress
great,
Dominus.
great note as opposed to anything lame.
Yeah. Not like, oh, your middle, Robin. I like that name.
Or um, straight out of Compton when Suge asks Dre what his new label is going to be, and he's like Aftermath. Like it's supposed to be like earth shaking, and it's like, so you're gonna make Eminem famous? Got it? It's it's a funny note, but no, it's hard to get into. Um, Even though you know where it's going to end, it's kind of a delight to see how well they assembled it and
Right.
how and the performances are strong, and like you said, it's great looking,
Hmm.
but it really by existing at this time and coming out in proximity to Immaculate and everything because they weren't that far apart.
Yeah. No, they were just like a month, maybe.
Yeah, but it's interesting that those got made, and we always roll back to you know comic writer Alan Moore talking about idea space. It's like why we end up with like two Wyatt Earp movies at the same time and things like that, and like
Right.
two weird nun birthing movies at the same time.
Well, we had two Joan of Arc movies in the 90s. We
Yeah,
had two meteors gonna hit the Earth movie. Like
yep,
every year, there's the Dante's Peak and Volcano
yep.
year. Like that, it always happens. I mean, in '82 we had um, Sword and the Sorcerer, Conan, and the Beastmaster all launch right there.
which we did an episode about that stuff as well.
Yeah.
But
It
Hawk the
also,
Slayer,
yeah, Hawk the Slayer. Yeah, we also, I mean, it was on summer of '82 at 40. It was all three of them got covered on that
yeah,
because two of them were made to try to beat the other one there. So,
yep, yep. But this really, when you talk about how do movies reflect society and social fears and everything, this came out in the shadow of Roe getting deconstructed, and I don't think
mhm.
that that's a coincidence. I think that's a
Yeah.
cultural chime. I think it's like every once in a while you hear these kind of notes of things happening at a time, and it's like a lot of the stuff in these two movies really reflects a lot of fears I think that are encapsulated in women not having control of their bodies, the church telling them what to do, the church
Hmm.
is going to genetically engineer a new Messiah. You get to carry it, be happy, that
Right.
kind of thing. The a Handmaid's Tale thread that runs through everything. It's not a mistake. I
Hmm.
think that these kind of films are happening at the cultural moment that they are.
Yeah. Yeah. That totally makes sense because, yeah, Roe would have been what, like 2 years I got to return? Oh, a year and a half probably
Yeah,
because it was in June of 2022. And then, yeah, but yeah, these would have been going into production.
yep.
Having something to say. Very
Yeah, the
true.
development cycle. Yeah,
So yeah, this was first Omen was Disney Fox or sorry 20th Century Studios uh put out. This one made more. It made 20 million, and then 50 worldwide, but it cost a lot more than the other two to make. So
yeah. It was cost like 30 something, I think.
yeah.
And so but it's kind of funny in a way because it's finite. Unless you're going to remake The Omen, there's not a way to
Hmm.
go with it. I mean, in most places, I think when they make a horror film, they kind of are secretly hoping that's a franchise.
Hmm.
Whereas, one of the greatest horror films of the 21st century, Malignant, should really have a sequel. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and Jay, Kyle hates my pitch of Gabriel versus Jigsaw, but
Oh.
you know,
Ooh. That could. Yeah.
John wants to trap somebody and does, but it turns out it's Madison. Doesn't know that she's got Gabriel.
She's one of the people in the trap. Yeah, there's like five of them, and yeah.
Yeah.
Madison.
Kyle's like, I hate you. I'm like, no, man, like, tell me that's not awesome.
They'll hear you.
But
Um. So speed up. Let's roll over A24. The next one's another, or the next one's A24. Put out wide by Lionsgate. So that was a nice segue, Troy,
yeah,
inadvertently with Jigsaw. It's MaxXxine.
Be strong. Your Maxine minks.
Pass ain't finished with you.
No kidding.
You're ugly. Be strong.
Maxine in cinemas now.
Which is the third in the X and Pearl trilogy. This one bumping up to the 1980s, and holy shit, panic mode right there. This movie, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going here. Which Ty West broke out with House of the Devil in
yeah,
2009 with that was a satanic panic inspired movie, which I love pointing out that we get all these like, hey, make a movie that looks like it was a different era and stuff. Ty West is the guy who did it and didn't blink or wink at you when he did it. His
yeah,
if if you didn't know some of the actors, at the time it came out, I said if you didn't know Dee Wallace, you could have mistaken that movie for like a genuine '80s movie because Greta Gerwig
yeah,
was on the indie scene at the time and Jocelyn Donahue and stuff, but like that movie plays, it's paced, looks, edited, cut, shot, and doesn't like the artist, the Academy, the Best Picture winner. Even that one can't stay silent the whole movie. You
right.
know, so yeah, I always praise Ty West because yeah, he kept he never showed it, he never like reached
Yeah.
out to let you know. Yeah, I know I'm making this, am I right?
Well,
So,
and his interest is always there too, because in the VHS segment is the cult related one,
hmm
and then the Sacrament and
Sacrament, yeah.
other stuff he's done. He's shown an interest in Jonestown and the cultish stuff and everything. So bringing that into his
Religious
verse,
fanaticism, yeah.
kind of works out real well. One of the things that I thought was great about the way that it was marketed was in the original trailer, they used Self-Control by Laura Branigan,
hmm
which itself was a hugely controversial music video at the time because oh God damn it, Friedkin directed it. And
What? Oh, the video?
the video for Self-Control, and
Okay.
it was banned from MTV for a time because, of perceived stuff. You just watch it. Do yourself a favor, watch the Self-Control music video.
Okay.
It's awesome. The song is awesome. But like she's being stalked by a guy in a white mask, and it's very Friedkin-esque. It's like Friedkin makes an 80s music video. But there was so much controversy about that it was kind of like the perfect song to use in the trailer. Like
hmm
he knew what buttons he was pushing with the 80s stuff because it's squarely
Gotcha.
a 1984 song and the movie set in 85. Um, but with X, Pearl, and Maxine, all praise Mia Goth, man. She is outstanding. She
I
brings
love I love her performance in Pearl. Pearl's probably my favorite of the three, but like she's just a revelation throughout these. Like, just it's not easy doing what she's doing here.
Yeah, and stack that with Infinity Pool, and
Yeah.
she's like she can be terrifying,
hmm
and she can be vulnerable and all kinds of she's got range.
Yeah.
And the scene where, you know, if you don't know, like Maxine is a adult actress who survived some horrible shit in the film X
Yep.
and continued to be an adult actress, but at one point she is a guy attempts to assault her and she delivers some spike heel justice of a most
Oh
nauseating
yeah.
sort. And it's like people talked about the vaginal hand in the First Omen. They are not talking about the spike heel and
No.
Maxine. That's way more disturbing. Way, way more disturbing.
Yeah. And this movie also is inspired a lot by the Angel films that came out in
Yes.
the 80s. In addition to the religious satanic panic stuff going on. Uh, but it's an interesting. I mean, these movies are three movies, none like the other. Um, the way they go, but this has some detective work, slasher stuff going on for it. It has a lot of really interesting love for like Hollywood movie making stuff because there's the Elizabeth Debicki character
Yeah.
who's very intriguing. Her and Maxine scenes are really great together. That like, and she's really intense and unnerving in it a bit, in
Yeah.
a way that it's like Mia Goth's like tough shit all around until she's around her. Like
Yeah.
that's the one that's like she needs she kind of wants to aspire to is the woman who has the power and just doesn't give a shit. It's kind of like yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. And you mentioned the kind of the we mentioned the culty vibe of it, and that plays into like one of the religious aspects of the film, like Maxine's background and the cult. But this
hmm
also is bouncing off of deliberately the Night Stalker case, which was happening concurrently, and they are playing it as this Night Stalker stuff is happening in the background, and are
Yeah.
the things that are happening to Maxine related to the Night Stalker? And ultimately, they're not. But if you don't know, the Night Stalker real case was serial killer Richard Ramirez, who Brandon and I always talk about this. All these serial killers that the media says are satanic aren't, except
Nope.
one dude, Ramirez. He was he believed he was a product of a ghastly upbringing, and all kinds of horrible shit happened to him, and then he was a drug abuser, an alcoholic, a Satanist, a sex offender, all these many things, and he was a serial killer, and eventually screws up and gets the shit kicked out of him by a mob chasing him, where he is finally apprehended And then he goes on to prison where he's convicted of all these crimes, never executed. He eventually dies in prison in the 2010s. But yeah, he had a reign of terror in Los Angeles for a good 16 months where people,
Hmm.
this was the Night Stalker. And even later, they were still finding some earlier crimes they were connecting to him from DNA. So he killed even more people than they thought over a longer period of time. But so this whole pastiche of the Night Stalker is going on in the background of MaxXxine. It just informs the movie in a different way. This was the vibe in Hollywood at the time. People were
Yeah.
freaked out.
Yeah. And a lot of the thing I like too is like this kind of has this kind of statement on saying like these things that the religious people want you to fear they're creating themselves.
Yeah,
It's all them. Like WNUF said had a similar message in it, where like they want something to be something so bad they'll do it to make people believe. That's
right.
and that's what ultimately is happening here in Maxine is her estranged father and his church chapter or something
Yeah,
are this entity that has been killing people around the movie sets and around her.
which is actually set up in X.
Yeah.
Toward the
No,
conclusion
yep.
of X, they explicitly draw you to the point that her dad is the preacher you've been hearing throughout the film,
Yeah.
which is interesting
Yeah.
because
And it gives a note to this movie just really has that kind of like sleaze 80s thing going on, which I
yeah,
like. That's usually reserved for New York movies, but this is LA doing it. And
right,
it's very similar, like the feel like Savage Streets, kind of
yeah,
the look of it and stuff. But I, it's kind of weird. Like Maxine's an interesting character that is so driven to be a star. People are getting murdered and shit. She don't give a fuck. Like I'm still gonna be. I need to be a star.
yeah. And the you mentioned the whole aesthetic, the whole sleaze thing. Like Kevin Bacon plays into that expert,
Yes.
and Esposito is great.
Mm-hmm.
Short role, but
Halsey's in there for 2 seconds.
yeah. There's a lot of great uh performance bits in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly the Kevin Bacon car
Oh
scene
yeah.
is top notch because they go to some really crazy exploitive violent places in the film.
Oh yeah, they do. Yeah, when it wants to hit the jugular, it goes.
Yeah, it doesn't, it would. So I found the whole thing start to finish, the idea that he made X and then tacked Pearl on it at the
Mm-hmm.
same time and nobody knew he was doing two movies, let
Right.
alone gonna make a third, it was crazy. And
Yeah.
so this is a mark of ambition that just happens to fit into the theme we're looking at.
It's gonna be like the before trilogy of horror when it gets years down the road. Like these little movies that came out made a little bit of money and then moved on.
Yeah.
Because yeah, this one is A24 uh made 15 million. So that's the sweet spot for some. It's 15. That's
Yeah.
where they come around. But yeah, I think this one was expected to do a little better but this turned out to be one of those. Yeah, the internet loves these movies, but general public's not going out to see them.
Yeah, that I'm currently interested to see what happens with Nosferatu because,
Hmm.
I mean, seen the original, seen the 79, Herzog and Kinski, come on, I'm not going to miss that.
No.
But the I'm really interested in seeing what the new one's like, despite the fact that I know the story and I know everything. I want to see what he does with it. But and it's getting a lot of advertising, so I'm very curious as to how it's gonna hit
Yeah.
because it's a very we've really done a good job showing Orlok, but you know, I'm I'm unsure like what the public reaction is going to be to it. I just don't
Yeah.
want it to whiff.
No, I hope not. It definitely probably be awards darling. for sure, even if it does whiff. But it should. I mean, it has name recognition, things going on. Eggers coming off The Northman, which was popular. So, I mean, yeah, it's interesting. Holiday blood drinking for everyone. That's what it could be
Yeah.
there.
So, which I guess is as good a way as any to tee up Heretic.
Heretic, yes.
Mr. Reed, you mentioned you might be interested in learning more about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
We need to return to the church.
The door won't open. You'll have to exit through the back of my house.
So which door?
It's a simple choice. Belief or disbelief.
What happens if we choose the wrong door?
Should I request a drum roll?
We just need to go home.
We were just getting started, weren't we?
This one, the most recent one that has come out with Hugh Grant. I was interested in this movie from the trailer, but then it got big time buzz after it released, and it did pretty.
Yeah.
It's been doing pretty well the box office wise. This is our most probably successful film of them. It hasn't made as much as First Omen, but I don't think it needed to. It's sitting at 27.5 domestic, and then 41 total around the globe. This movie, so this one, it was not, when the trailer, I thought they were going to go through some kind of maze house. No, mental maze house. I think the first 2/3 of this movie are some of the most incredible stuff in a movie this year. The final third is solid. But this is a movie, this is it feels like Tarantino-esque for horror, with how all suspense and stuff rooted around dialogue and knowledge and such, built in a little room with limited characters. I'm wonder if Tarantino's gonna love this movie, because this is right, this is the stuff he does. But I mean, just going to town debunking religious stuff in a mainstream wide release is just wow.
Oh, yeah. And personally, man, I've been telling that Air That I Breathe Radiohead story for years. And so the fact that with the movie, I was like, holy shit, they're actually, it's like, do you know this? Because Air That I Breathe is in the trailer, which is also kind of hilarious because Air That I Breathe was used at the end of Godzilla versus Kong, so that's awesome. But Air That I Breathe is in the trailer, and then he's like, do you know Radiohead's song Creep? And I looked at my family like, no, he's not gonna. I then he starts going into the whole, it's really the air that I breathe by the Hollies, and I'm like, God damn, nice work. But he does that not just with the song, but he deconstructs Monopoly.
The Monopoly yeah.
It's two setups to deconstruct religion.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. The psychological gamesmanship in the script that he's going with, because if you don't know, they're two young female Mormon missionaries going door to door, and he kind of traps them in the house.
And he's one that has requested them to come to the house. Yeah. It's not like they just randomly show up. Right. It was a request.
And so he starts breaking them down.
Yeah. And it's nuts. I'm watching this movie like, oh, what? This is happening.
Yeah. Because it goes hard.
Yeah. It does not let up at all. And because it also makes you think it's going one way, or it's going to wind up this, or it's going to be this and this and this, and it is not. And it is not. As much as you think you know where this movie's going, you have no idea. Twists, turns, what the hell's going on here? But I really think the first 2/3 is super strong, and then it gets into some more genre stuff to finish out. But it already won me over with the first 2/3.
And the thing about the ending is you have a character that is physically descending deeper and deeper into the place where they are, but as they do, the art on the walls, the sketches and everything get progressively more satanic,
Yeah.
which is interesting because Hugh Grant does not present as a Satanist. His whole thing is that religion is about control, which is
Hmm.
the fundamental Satan argument. But you're seeing sketches of Baphomet and all these other things on the walls and stuff as the character descends. And I thought that was a really interesting thing that popped up, the other films and the control allegory, because that's always the story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is, you know, Satan chafed at control. And the whole, the Aleister Crowley thing, do what you will, be the whole of the law. It's all about this kind of idea of this, mental, sexual, whatever freedom, but through someone else's control.
Yeah. Well, I
It's
love when
yeah, go
well
ahead.
when he presents him with the choice of the doors, and he's like, and the one, you believe in this God, but you also have to like worship him and give him, thing. It's like, or he'll be unhappy and all this stuff, and he allows the atrocities of the world to happen, which that's freaking scary. But then he's like, the other door where no God exists. What are we doing here? What happens when you die? Like, that's also equally terrifying. Like,
Yeah,
which I appreciated with his announcement there with that. But like, he's just so, I don't know. I like Grant is just amazing at what he's doing here. And
yeah.
I don't know another actor that could have sold it like this.
I don't know that he's ever been better in anything.
Yeah, it's quite good. I think they're going to try to push him for some acting considerations, but I don't know how far it goes. You have to get Academy people to watch a horror movie in order for them to put him
Yeah,
up. But he has, I mean, the award screeners are out for Heretic, so
yeah,
I don't know, but yeah, it's quite intriguing, and I could sit and listen to him talk this stuff for like hours. Like
yeah.
that's how good he is here.
It is a very well written, literate script,
Hmm.
and it is well considered, and not just because it has the Radiohead thing in it, but but I was like really, you know, also hilariously almost stealth appearance by Topher Grace.
Oh yeah, I love it. He is Topher Grace is the Justin Long of Barbarian for this movie.
Yeah, he's the Mormon elder. He doesn't have much to do, but it's just kind of interesting that
It's fun. Yeah. Well, it probably is a red herring to let you think, oh, by via casting, oh, he's gonna save them, or he's gonna be a part, or he's gonna, and it is just a common role. Like it could have
yeah.
been played by Joe Schmo.
And I want to shout out, Sophie Thatcher continues to have a really interesting career with roles in like the Book of Boba Fett and
Hmm.
more prominently in Yellow Jackets. And then this movie, she's getting a lot of interesting stuff to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, you know, but yeah, this kind of string of films throughout the year, all touching on these kind of similar things. I
Hmm.
think it's interesting because if you look back in the past couple of years, you can't really make that argument with some of the other stuff. I mean, there's been, you
Well,
know,
we've had a lot of popular religious films, but none of them have been like Satan. It hasn't
yeah,
been like we've been living through like the Conjuring universe, but in the Conjuring universe, it's been demons, possession, Annabelle, the Nun. It has a lot of them have religious iconography, but like it's not Satan himself, and or he gets a brief cameo mention, uh, but have them stacked like this in one
yeah.
year.
The Conjuring universe has kind of recast the Warrens as like Christian superheroes. The,
Hmm.
that, Lorraine's got her vision powers and, Ed's got his super deductive skills and, they fight demons in the name of God kind of thing. It's a
Yeah,
different vibe
Ed
than
plays Elvis, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah."
yeah. right? It's a very different approach. I mean, it's made them a lot of money.
Yeah.
So they've been very successful with it. Although it's weird because it kind of just seemed to just stop.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess they're making another one
One more. Yep.
that but it just kind of like went, you know.
Well, the
Uh
last one came during COVID, and it was the simultaneous Project Popcorn releases for Max and theaters,
yeah.
and it wasn't from James Wan. He didn't direct it, so
Yeah. None
eh,
2 came after that, right?
mhm,
Yeah. So,
yeah. Uh, so and there's supposed to be a tall, or was it
the Crooked Man.
Crooked Man? Crooked Man.
But I think that got finally canned.
Yeah, probably can probably.
But
Um,
outside of the bandwidth of The Conjuring, there hasn't been like a rolling succession of films dealing with a lot of the same stuff the way that
yeah,
kind of were. Yeah, it's a lot of the horror stuff that was good, like Thanksgiving, have been like revivals of other subgenres,
yeah.
like the mask slasher with tongue-in-cheek horror stuff.
Hmm.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that all. I mean, I think Happy Death Day kicked off a slasher
Yeah,
revival because Halloween came back, and then that was usually. I mean, you had Hellfest, Thanksgiving. There's, I mean, In a Violent Nature, exploring the point of view of the killer for it, which was uh, pretty fun. I believe they're making a second one of those too.
in another violent nature.
Yes, in a violent suburban area.
Yeah,
So
but no, I Heretic I thought was pretty terrific. I left the
yeah.
theater pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I was pretty excited when I watched it. I was like, "Oh wow, this is a lot more than I expect." Like it looked good, but I was like, "Well, I didn't expect it to be coming around thinking it was good because of what I was treated to with it." I mean, they really sold it on what is this mysterious house with creepy Hugh Grant. That's
Yeah,
it. They don't tell you, and it's like, "Oh wow,
yeah, and I got to say, I genuinely liked all 5 of these movies and Longlegs, which we referenced.
yep,
Not sure what order I would put them in. I was most surprised by the First Omen by how much I liked it,
yeah,
uh, because it was so solid on such a thin thread of promise, giving the history of prequels.
right, yeah, yeah." And Omen movies, like that's because they had that TV movie, that fourth one's, ooh, and
Yeah.
that remake was. That might be one of the worst horror remakes there is. It's from the guy who directed A Good Day to Die Hard, of course.
Well, the original Omen is still rock solid
Yep.
because, I watched that with Kyle the first time he watched it, and he was into it.
And
And
and for the original Omen to work, I think just being a 70s film really helps that.
yeah,
Like there's a good sense with that that works. And I think that Omen 2 is quite fun. It's a little bit more exploitative than the first one, but uh very, very good.
that's always the way, right? They got to ramp up the stuff for the sequel. And
Yeah. Got need some more kill like the Omen is like the original. It's like if there was a horror series to compare, it's like Final Destination. That's what the Omens were with the first two. It's like the mysterious, like the Rube Goldberg type deaths
yeah,
that would happen with this unseen entity.
yeah, that's the one with the pane of glass. I think is kind of the most famous.
Hmm.
Even when the nanny hangs herself and smashes back through the
Yep.
window. Everything there, that's
Or
like,
David Warner getting his head cut off.
yeah, that's what
That's
that
yeah,
Warner
yep,
was
yeah.
talking
That
about.
big pane of glass. Yeah. The second one has like a big elevator kill too. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, it's they're in it with the Italians,
Mhm.
like Argento's elaborate deaths, like in Suspiria and everything.
Yep.
Totally bouncing off of each other with those because Omen precedes Suspiria.
It does. It does. So very
Oh, you want to
cool.
show somebody hanging themselves and smashing through glass? I got
I got you, motherfucker.
or even Dirty, you know.
Ha! Very
Yeah,
cool.
it is just a really interesting thread. And I know that we pick at it a lot because we're interested in it in particular, but this stuff reverberates for a reason,
Hmm.
and people are I think that as far as movies reflect our concerns and the things that we're afraid of culturally. I think that they did a really good job reflecting a lot of those things. Like I said, the nun movies particularly bounce that idea of that religious freedom and the reproductive freedom, and the others kind of traffic in, is religion control? What is it? What are you willing to do for fame?
Yeah.
Devil, which is definitely a big, big thing with social media and whatnot. Like, what are you willing to do? How poor are you willing to be?
True.
So,
Gotcha.
Interesting year of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this Satan's big year. He's back.
Now I smell sequel.
Satan 2. Tucifer. There you go. All right. Well, thank you, Troy. I appreciate you bringing this idea up, because you brought it up months ago, and then Heretic got added on top. It was before Heretic even came out.
Yeah.
So happy to have that. I know life is pretty busy for you, but where can people keep up with you?
As always, I am the executive editor of the Saturday Evening Post, so you can find new stuff from me, largely about entertainment, at SaturdayEveningPost.com. And I wrote Marvel Comics for Dummies, which comes out in February. It's available for pre-order now on your local bookstore, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc. So you can find that.
All right. And I'm on the socials, which includes Blue Sky, at Brandon4KUHD. Always remember to check the YouTube channel for 4K and Blue reviews, as well as additional material. Next week, MaxXxine is back for our annual holiday episode with his latest unique pick. Do you remember what it was? Because you can, if not, go back and check the final music video episode for the summer of 2004 where he announced it. But until then, stay film positive.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.